Part 4. I just finished the underpainting to where I was pretty happy with it, had enough texture, and so it's time to start using good paint. So basically I look at the underpainting and go through my paint box and try and decide what paints I want to use. And I'll just be, kind of looking at the painting and grabbing colors, and I will lay them all out just as I'm going along. And basically that's what you see here, kind of scanning along, looking at the various different paints. By and large, these are going to be transparent paints because I'm about to do glazing with them. Although in some cases, glazing's a bit of a misnomer because some of the time you'll use it undiluted, and that in the nature of these pigments is that they'll still act as glazes. Most of these are very transparent, even though in this case I probably will start just with a fairly dilute mixture of all these, so as not to sort of change the underlying structure of the composition. A few of these were ones I just got, just trying these new Utrecht fluid acrylics. And some of them are sort of old hat. This is my favorite right here, the quinacridone Nicolazo Gold. It's a mixture, but it's an amazing color. So, the Utrecht regular artist colors are pretty nice. They're very opaque though, so I ended up not using that too much. Galleria, the Winsor & Newton Galleria, those are also very nice. They're called flow acrylics, and I don't find that they're all that thin, but they tend to be fairly transparent, so that's good. So this is the top for my Thai food carryout, which I've washed about 30 times. Of course I use them because they're disposable, but then I don't throw them away. Whatever. It's nice because it has a little bit of a whiteness to it, so you can still see the nature of the pigments on it, but it's a cheap Tupperware thing. So basically right now what I'm doing is putting out, in most cases, just the smallest dab I can, because it goes a long way once you dilute it and once you're essentially just tinting a picture. Couple of these are so weak that I'll put a little bit more out. For example, the Galleria Opera Rose is almost non-existent in terms of its pigment load, so you need a lot of that. And I think in this case there's that Opera Rose. I think the Nicolazo Yellow, I figured I wanted to get an overall tint to the picture, so I probably put a little bit more of that out than I would have normally. And so basically laying them out somewhat in an order, which has to do with the particular painting, but basically just knowing that these are going to get a little bit mixed up, dirty each other a little bit, putting colors together that are going to end up together on the painting, so when that crossover happens, it's really not going to affect anything, rather than in any sort of palette layout arrangement or color theory or anything like that, although it ends up being a little bit like that anyway. And what you see next is, once I get all the paint out, I'll go through with the tube of it's gloss medium varnish, and basically put an appropriate amount next to each color, depending on how thin I want it or how thick of a pigment load the paint is. So, and should mention, even though this is essentially when I like to break out the good paint, the nice paint that's going to be on the surface where you see it. There's the Michaels brand Artist Loft medium there, and pretty much the only reason I use that is that it comes in those squeeze tubes. The other mediums that I've tried that worked almost always come in jars or bottles, and this is it works, and it comes in a tube that means I can use it. So I have half a jar of golden gloss gel medium that is 2 years old. And so what you saw there is, I basically laid all these things out, didn't mix them up yet because I don't want to get the brush wet, don't want to get the brush dirty, and preparatory to actually getting the painting out, I'm going to wet that down, and I'll actually wet it down as I go, just for first of all to keep them from drying out, but also I tend to like it to be a little bit more fluid, so just that little spritz of water makes them flow a little bit better across the board. And then I wet down my brushes, and then chuck all the paint back in the box, and stop the video, pick that up, put the painting down, and move on to video 5.